Friends, gather round because it seems we're back in familiar territory, a trade war. And this time, it's personal. Well, as personal as Donald Trump can get when it comes to international diplomacy. The man who once called the European Union a foe is at it again, threatening a 25% tariff on a whole bunch of their goods. Cars, cheese, wine, you name it, basically everything that makes life worth living. Now, you might be thinking, but Trevor, haven't we been down this road before? And you'd be right. This isn't Trump's first rodeo when it comes to slapping tariffs on our allies. Remember the great steel and aluminum showdown of 2018? Good times. But hey, why let a little thing like history get in the way of a good old-fashioned trade war, right? So, what's got the Donald all riled up this time? Well, according to the man himself, the EU is designed to screw the United States. Yes, you heard that right. The same European Union that was formed to promote peace and cooperation after World War II is now part of some elaborate scheme to undermine the greatest country in the world. Or at least that's what Trump would have you believe. But before we delve into the specifics of Trump's latest trade tirade, let's take a step back and try to understand the man's thought process. Because let's be honest, when it comes to international trade, Trump's understanding is about as deep as a kiddie pool. Trump's main beef with the EU boils down to his favorite topic: trade deficits. He keeps harping on about how the US buys more from the EU than it sells to them, and how that's just not fair. Now there's a grain of truth to this. The US does have a trade deficit with the EU when it comes to goods. But here's the thing Trump conveniently leaves out. The US has a trade surplus with the EU when it comes to services. You know, things like finance, tourism, and intellectual property. But facts have never been Trump's strong suit. He's more interested in creating his own reality, a world where the US is always getting the short end of the stick, and he's the only one who can fix it. And how does he propose to fix it? By slapping tariffs on European goods, of course, because nothing says fair trade like making American consumers pay more for everything from cars to cheese. It's like he's trying to win a trade war by shooting himself in the foot. Now, you might be thinking, surely the EU isn't just going to take this lying down. And you'd be right. The Europeans might be known for their diplomacy and love of fine wine, but they're not pushovers. They've already made it clear that they're prepared to retaliate if Trump goes ahead with his tariffs. And they have a few tricks up their sleeves. Remember that little thing called the trade bazooka that the EU cooked up after Trump's first round of tariffs? Well, it's still loaded and ready to fire. The EU could slap tariffs on all sorts of iconic American products like bourbon, jeans, and motorcycles. Think of it as a taste of their own medicine, Trump style. But the EU's response isn't just about economic retaliation, it's also about sending a message that they won't be bullied by a president who seems to have a fundamental misunderstanding of how international trade works. They're standing up for the rules-based international order that Trump seems so eager to dismantle. Section 4, the global impact, a house of cards. Now you might be wondering, why should I care about a trade war between the US and the EU? Well, for starters, it's not just about them. This kind of tit-for-tat tariff battle has ripple effects throughout the global economy. When two of the world's largest economies start slapping tariffs on each other, everyone feels the pain. Think about it. American businesses that rely on European suppliers will see their costs go up, which means they'll either have to raise prices for consumers or cut jobs. European businesses that export to the US will face similar challenges. And let's not forget about the poor farmers on both sides of the Atlantic who are caught in the crossfire. But the economic impact is only part of the story. This trade war also undermines the already fragile relationship between the US and its closest allies. At a time when the world is facing unprecedented challenges, from climate change to the rise of authoritarianism, we need the US and the EU to work together, not against each other. Section 5, can this friendship be saved? So, can this trade war be averted? It's hard to say. Trump seems determined to double down on his protectionist policies, even if it means alienating America's closest allies and damaging the global economy. The EU, on the other hand, is caught between a rock and a hard place. They don't want a trade war, but they also can't afford to be seen as backing down in the face of Trump's bullying. There are some glimmers of hope. Some European leaders are trying to reason with Trump, appealing to his ego and his desire for a deal. Others are urging the EU to stand firm and call Trump's bluff. But ultimately, the fate of the transatlantic relationship may rest on the outcome of the 2026 US presidential election. If Trump is re-elected, we can expect more of the same tariffs, trade wars, and a steady erosion of America's global standing. But if a new president is elected, one who understands the importance of alliances and the dangers of protectionism, there's a chance that the US and the EU can repair their relationship and work together to address the challenges facing the world. Until then, we can only hope that cooler heads will prevail, and that this trade war won't escalate into something far more damaging.